drivers, start your engines! The Lapped Traffic Podcast has brought you over 300 shows, driver and media interviews, awesome stories and entertainment, and one of the coolest fantasy leagues around. Get ready for another exciting season. Sit back, relax, and try not to get lapped. Now, here is your host, the Professor, Brendan Crown.
Oh, what is up, Lap Traffic Nation? Welcome to the Season 9 kickoff of the Lap Traffic Podcast and episode 339. Yes, I am your host, the Professor Brandon Crowd. Oh, man, cannot believe we got another season rolling around right in front of us. Daytona is right in front of us. We got the Clash at Bowman Gray in the rear view. Cannot wait to get into all of that. But man, hope you all had a fantastic Christmas and New Year's. I mean, it's February already, so we'll just do a quick reference to that, right? 2024, long gone. Here we are, fresh into 2025. The season, like I said, is just right around the corner, and I couldn't be more excited. Let me get you guys up to speed. Let me take a moment, update you guys what's been going on with me over the last few months since we closed things out last year. I know I didn't get to do anywhere near as many shows as I would have liked, and that's something I acknowledged last year. That's something I'm acknowledging up front right now. Starting the catering business and the food truck took a lot of time, energy, as you can imagine, and throw being a parent in there as well with a soon-to-be 3-year-old. Life got very busy very quickly, but this year, I am definitely committed to being here more regularly and bringing the content to you. I don't know in the full capacity of what we've done in years past of like 50 shows, but we'll definitely do more than the 15 shows I think we did all of last year. So cannot wait to be back here with you guys a lot more and to be a lot more active on social media, all of that good stuff. We've already started kicking that off. So very, very excited, starting off strong, I would say. Speaking of life getting busy, like I said, Alden turns 3 on the Daytona 500. How awesome is that? It's been an absolute joy watching him grow. We've had so many fun moments and memories with him. This little guy is full of energy. Right now, it is all Spidey and Friends. That's his thing, especially now that football's over. And it's just been amazing to see his personality really come to life. It's been fun sharing him with you guys with some pictures and stuff like that on social media. And man, is time flying, but we are loving every moment of it. As I mentioned, the business side of things, it was a wild ride in 2024. If you were following along with us in 2024, you know I started a catering company, Three's a Crowd Catering. The name wrote itself. It really did. And we were open 9 months of 2024. We officially opened March 1st of 2024. And in those 9 months, we did 78 events between catering and the food truck, which was awesome. It definitely came with some challenges, that's for sure. But we are definitely in a rhythm now, which is awesome. We're doing corporate events. We're doing private events. I love it. I love taking the food truck. We got a bunch of subdivisions, HOA type things that we're going to be hitting up this summer, which is going to be a lot of fun. We've done just some incredible events, and I'm really excited for what's to come with 2025 on that side of things. And very excited now that the off season is basically behind us to keep the momentum up with the podcast. Like I said, some more shows, some more content. We'll try to do some giveaways, all that good stuff, and we'll see what's going on. So I appreciate you for being here with us, for following, retweeting, all of that good stuff. I know there are quite a few out there that have been around since episode 1, which is absolutely incredible, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. If this is your first episode, welcome. Go check out some old shows. We've done some fun stuff, so go check that out and tell your friends. And before I get into things, I just want to mention that this will also be the kickoff to Season 9 of the Lap Traffic Fantasy League. It is a free league. Right now, we got around 100 players in it, which is awesome. It includes all 3 series, and there's hardware to give away. We give custom trophies away. So if you want more details on that, stay tuned to the end of the show. I'll drop all of the nerdy content around that, but feel free to reach out if you want to join. Okay, enough of me blabbering. He's kicked us off for like the last, I think this is the third or fourth year in a row now. The man needs no introduction. It is the legendary Jeff Gluck. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining us for an incredible sixth time to kick off season 9 of the Lap Traffic podcast. We have none other than the legend, you know, as one of the most respected voices in motorsports journalism, representing the athletic with his unparalleled insight and passion, whether it's his must-read 12-question series, co-hosting the Teardown podcast. Jeff continues to set the gold standard for NASCAR coverage. It's an absolute honor to welcome back the legendary Jeff Gluck. What's up, sir? How are you?
6 times. I didn't realize that. I'll take that. I'll take that every day. All right. Yeah. Hey, all it means is we're getting old, right?
Yes. It means
every time I do this, I have less hair.
Dude, mine's thinning out in the back, man. Really bad. Like, well, listen, man, welcome back. You kicked us off last year, so I was glad we're able to do this to kick us off for season 9. So welcome back, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm happy to be in the leadoff spot for my 12 questions. I keep using Joey Logano on the leadoff spot, so I understand. You know, you gotta find somebody that works and kick it off right. So I'm happy to be that person.
Awesome, appreciate you, man. So before we get into NASCAR stuff, you know what's new? How's the kids? How's off season? Did you get to do anything fun?
Not really. I mean, I guess the most fun thing that I did in terms of like for myself, I have not been into video games for a while. Like, all right, I just, you know, since having kids, I don't have the time to play anymore.
Sure.
But that new college football game came out last year.
Dude.
And so on Black Friday, I bought myself a PlayStation 5 because I didn't even have the current system to play for it anymore, you know? And so I got a deal on Black Friday, but I never touched it, you know, because I still, you know, the kids were around all the time. But so the week between Christmas and New Year's, we were all in Indiana. I flew back home after Christmas. So I had like a week here to like get ready for the season, you know, clean out my office, do all the stuff all the off-season projects. I had like 1 week, but like the girls weren't home. I was here by myself. So I played NCAA college football video game, started my dynasty.
That's because how many seasons you get through?
Only 2 so far. Because once they got back, I mean, that's, you know, yeah.
No, I'm with you. I bought that over Madden, and I've been obviously a Madden guy for years. That's like I have like 3 games. I've got Madden. I have whatever the current wrestling game is, and then I'll have some random one in there. And like you know, I don't have a whole lot of time to play, but if I get a minute to where I can sit down and play, I will. And what's been cool lately is our little guy, he loves to watch football. So I just give him a controller and he thinks he's playing. So like I've actually gotten to play a little bit more over the last couple of months because he's playing football with Dad, and that's badass.
I love that.
Yeah. Yes.
That's great. Very cool. Very cool.
But yeah, no. So what team did you play as there, sir?
Well, I went to University of Delaware. They're not in the game yet. They're joining they'll be in next year's game because they're joining FBS. But I like to start as like one of the worst teams possible and then like build your way up. So like I'm willing to get my butt kicked for a year or 2, which has been happening. Like, I mean, it hasn't been good, but I'm New Mexico.
Okay.
So just randomly, I just went through and found one of the teams with like the lowest rating possible.
I love that.
So yeah, I mean, we're not good, but
you will be. You will be.
I might get fired as a coach. Coach Jeff Gluck might get fired before I actually turn the program around, but you know, it's the risk you take. So
right. Nice. I love that. Are you going to get the NASCAR game or no? Like that's just way too much of a commitment there.
I'm very, very, very interested in that because iRacing taking that game over, I think is going to be bananas electric. I think it's going to be, and I have a tie to the NASCAR games from like, so this is probably more than you want to know, but
you're good.
when I was in 2004, I covered my first race. I was working at this newspaper in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And I was still trying to at the time I was learning about NASCAR and just getting into it. And I was covering races for this local paper when I could, but I still didn't totally know the intricacies and in and outs of all the things. And so when it came out, I bought NASCAR 05. It came out in 04, but NASCAR 05 Chase for the Cup. And at the beginning of the game, you race Ryan Newman through New York or something in streetcars. And you pull up to a stoplight and you look over at the other driver and it's Ryan Newman. He wants to race you.
And won't let you pass.
Yeah, exactly right. But your character knows it's Ryan Newman because you look down in the passenger seat next to you and there's a copy of NASCAR Scene magazine and he's on the cover and your character looks down, looks up at Ryan Newman, looks down, you're like, oh, that's the guy, right? That's the beginning of the game. So at the time I was like, oh, NASCAR Scene, what is that? Oh, that must be it's in the game. So it must be a big NASCAR magazine. It must be the big publication, like Sports Illustrated NASCAR or something. So I decided, I was like, I'm going to work for NASCAR Scene. I don't care what it is. That became my new goal because it was in the video game. And I guess 2 years later, I guess 2.5 years later, March 07, I got hired by NASCAR Scene. I geared everything toward, I was like, I'm going to be a NASCAR Scene. I'm going to be a NASCAR Scene. That became my new obsession. I subscribed to it. I read every single article. Those guys were my heroes. I was like, oh, Bob, all that stuff. That's awesome. So the video game for me, if you have a career mode like that, where you can start at the bottom, work your way up, which it sounds like they're going to, that is chef's kiss. I can't wait for it. I'll definitely play it.
And then if they, the old school, PS2, they had the Logitech steering wheel stuff. If they come out with that to where you can get your own little mini sim version of that on that, that I could totally see that being a very big success for sure.
Absolutely.
Jeff, before we get into the nuances of the 2025 season ahead of us, I just wanted to ask you about your poll, because it gets more and more popular every year. I feel like more and more outlets reference your poll in their content. I know I bring it up on my show every once in a while, and it's become a staple on social media to see it. The comment section is always interesting. You get your trolls, obviously, that just comes with social media, but it's kind of taken a life of its own. Does that ever get, do you ever feel the pressure from that as this thing has grown over the years?
Yes. And mostly in the sense that it gets negative feedback from some of the industry too. I have some people within NASCAR who hate the poll. They do not want me to do that poll because they're like, why are you putting in the fans' heads that they need to view this through the lens of, was this a good race or not? To me, which I think is absurd because I think I don't need, the fans are going to debate whether it was a boring race or whatever, the poll aside. That was a discussion among NASCAR fans long before the poll came around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The poll's been around since 2016. People in the COT era were like, this COT sucks. It's boring. Stuff like that. I mean, that is just a conversation about racing, but it gets, when the poll's bad, it gets put on me from some people, not everybody, but there's some very respected, voices even in the TV world and stuff who don't like the poll or have texted about the poll and said, why do you got to do this? And I'm just like, I just think, first of all, where I justify it is I think it's fair to ask because NASCAR makes so many changes in the name of, we're trying to do this to make a better show or please the fans or make more entertaining. So I think it's fair to say, is it working? was this a good race or not? Like if they're saying, okay, we're going to do this to the rules package and the tires and the format and all this stuff to make it a better show, isn't it okay to be like, hey, did you like it? Like, I don't think that's unfair, but I do feel like, I don't know at some point if it runs its course, but if it gets to the point where there's too many people going, forget that, this is really just negative, or, I don't want to hurt NASCAR if people think that's the case, but for now I'm going to keep it. But yeah, I definitely feel like some negativity around it sometimes.
Wow. That's crazy. I if I had to guess where you were going to go with that, it would have been more on the fan side, not NASCAR. I would have thought, not the stigma of, any press is good press kind of a thing, but more on the, hey, we're getting people engaged, talking. They could learn about, obviously coming from a trusted handle that's doing the poll, can maybe go there to get the overall fan reaction and be like, oh, hey, the fans aren't liking this because we're getting such a strong representation in one spot from one source. I'm surprised by that, but man, that's
I've heard that like they do use or I don't know if they currently do, but the data has been used by NASCAR internally. Like they'll look at it and say, hey, this is working, this is not working for some of it, I guess. But, I think, and look, Bristol for years, Bristol was like 1, 2, 3 for a while. And they put out press release from Bristol, like saying, hey, we have the top in Jeff Gluck's poll, like we have the top 3 races and stuff. So I think when it's good, people enjoy it. It's when it goes through a stretch of like, 3, 4 races where
Charlotte, Texas,
people are
in Atlanta. Or...
Yeah, exactly. Like, you got a Pocono race, you've got a road course that gets strung out, you've got a short track that didn't work or something like that. And people are, people aren't voting great. And so you get sort of this weariness of like, oh, your poll is negative, or it's just people that hate NASCAR. And I'm like, I think it's kind of reflective of what I think people feel, but anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the fans are going to love that insight you just gave them. That is for sure. Let's talk a little bit about the rule changes or lack thereof for the 2025 season. We've got, updates to the damaged vehicle policy, playoff waivers, no changes to the playoff structure, so to speak. I guess what stuck out to you as either, significant changes or non-changes?
Yeah, I guess I understand their reasoning for not changing it. I did think that they would make some tweaks as we left in November. I thought for sure they're going to make some adjustments after Logano won. There was so much emotion around it. They kind of waited long enough for the emotion to die down a little bit. And it sounds like, NASCAR, and explaining it to us why they didn't make a change is they felt like, for one thing, that's something you got to run by the TV partners. They now have 5 TV partners, including 3 new ones coming on this year. And they didn't feel like with a 2-month off season or whatever, there's going to be enough time to figure out what they should do that was going to make sense, run it by everybody, get everybody on board, drivers, TV partners, manufacturers, teams, whatever. And so they're going to take a look at it. It sounds like this year they're going to put a committee together. They're going to have all these sorts of voices. They're going to take a long look at it for the course of this entire season. And they just said, we don't want to do something just to do it. So again, I get that, but I also think, man, you're kind of setting yourself up again for
the same thing. If they could have, if they would have made a change, even small, just to maybe, show that they recognize, what would you have liked to have seen them do?
If it was going to be on the smaller end in terms of like tweaks of keeping the elimination playoffs, but then, just revamping the rounds or something. I think there's maybe some merit to the 3-race championship kind of thing. I think it was Eric East that maybe has said, hey, why don't you do 1 race to start? Like 1 race is like a wild card race kind of thing. 1 race first round, pretty much everybody, all the top guys are going to advance through if they have any sort of playoff points, Yeah. And then you have rounds of 3-3-3. But I mean, I personally, I think the move to the whole elimination format in general was built out of desperation from Brian France. And was anybody like really at the time, aside from Jimmy Johnson winning all of them, was anybody really going, man, this 10 race chase sucks. We need a one race. Nobody ever said, we need elimination rounds and one race playoff. And it was just, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know that would going back to the 10 race thing be that bad? Increase the playoff points, give them a more of a reward because it would be a longer sample size. And, I think it's worth trying, but the problem is they don't want to try that and then go back and say this didn't work. And then what do they do?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I was, after, Denny Hamlin was obviously very vocal on his podcast and stuff like that after the season. I'm not opposed to, the regular season champ, if he doesn't make it to the Final Four, having a bid in the Final Four. So maybe some years there's 5 or, and I love the 3 race thing. If you had 4 or 5 guys racing for over a 3 race stretch, think of the viewership. You're going to just have a gradual increase over the 3 races. It potentially gives a wider range for more money to be made across all the platforms, So like, I definitely think there's ways to improve if you still want to have, the elimination side of things. I didn't mind the format when it came out. One of my biggest gripes was just that we let too many people in, but that's playoffs across even the stick and ball sports. If you have half your field, half your teams, however we're calling them, make it, you obviously know you're going to have people that aren't, and the 7-7 Giants going and doing what they did against an undefeated New England team is such a rarity to have that happen. It's just like, can you do more with less, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. I just still, Joey Logano just today, as we're recording this, brought up, the comparison to, other playoff formats and other sports where, you could have an up and down season and you get hot in the playoffs. And I just think that, unless you want to try to figure out a way to do playoff points or put the playoff drivers on their own point system somehow or something, the dynamics of, the 35th place driver, spinning out at a key moment, causing a caution, whether that's a key pit stop or a restart that changes the entire playoffs after someone was going to win or whatever. And then you get a different winner. The Joey Logano thing, Las Vegas, with Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell's going to win that race. Kept Christopher Bell out of Final Four.
Yeah.
And put Logano in, obviously, right? So, it's like, and that was because of a caution and strategy and look, I get that happens and it's racing, but is that the fairest way to decide the champion of the sport? I don't. It's never been totally comfortable for me. I just think a bigger sample size is needed.
Yeah, no, I get that. Let's talk about some of the driver changes. We've got Noah Gragson to front row. We got SVG going to Trackhouse for some races. We got Riley Herbst joining 2311. We got AJ Allmendinger coming back. What were some of the bigger driver changes that you noticed or that you're either excited to see or think might make some noise?
Yeah, I think the most intriguing one is Chase Briscoe jumping into the 19 car. He's motivated. James Small, his crew chief, certainly motivated because he's got to prove something. They didn't perform up to their expectations with Truex last few years there, and now Briscoe's going to be very present. Truex had lived in New Jersey and Florida and wasn't really around and wouldn't look at his phone for 4 days a week or whatever. And now you're going to have, a guy that's very, very present and very engaged in the team. So they've got to perform. I'm very intrigued by Michael McDowell at Spire, bringing his crew chief with him. Spire organization on the rise. I'm picking McDowell to make the playoffs this year. I wonder, could Justin Haley and Rodney Childers get some magic also at Spire? That's intriguing to me. I'm not picking them to make playoffs. I am picking SVG because he's got 5 road course races to make the playoffs for Trackhouse. Right. I mean, you're going to give this guy 5 chances, and one of them is Chicago. Another one is Coda, where he's running the short course, which he won in supercars on that course. Mexico City, a new course, which he's going to adapt quickly. Watkins Glen, he almost won there last year. And Sonoma. So it's going to be tough to keep him out of the playoffs, right. I think.
Yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, those are some of the ones I'm looking at for sure.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room of NASCAR, which is the lawsuit with 2311. Walk us through. I know there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces. The charter system. I guess walk us through what started it, where we're at, and potential precedent that could come from this. In your perspective.
Well, so far with this new judge that they got, the first judge didn't seem to be too much on the team's side at that point. I mean, he was kind of giving him an opening, but this new judge is seeming to constantly side with the teams, and NASCAR seems to be on their heels a little bit. This team is steaming toward, at least at a minimum, seems to be steaming toward discovery, where NASCAR is going to have to open their books, and we're going to, the teams are going to see emails and text messages between the executives and finances, and it's going to be the treasure trove that the teams have wanted is kind of heading their way. Now, will NASCAR settle, at some point, or try? I don't know. I don't really know what the teams want to settle for. The judge has said, look, either way, I don't care, but the trial's starting December 1st. So you guys can either figure this out at some point before December 1st, or we're going to a jury trial. And, I'm sure NASCAR doesn't want that. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple months here as the discovery process starts to play out. Is NASCAR going to get, I don't see this going down a great path for NASCAR at this point. So what can they do to get this to go away? I don't know. Cause I don't think we've ever heard exactly what the team's objective is or what they want. What do 2311 and Front Row want out of this? Is it just more money? Do they want to embarrass NASCAR? What is their goal?
Sure.
What if they say they want change, but what change? What do we know? What is this going to end up in NASCAR? Sort of having to sell the tracks or having another officiating body run the races, or what will happen? I don't know, but I can't answer that. I just think if the discovery process plays out and we get to see all the behind the scenes of what's Jim France making and all that stuff, that's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. For me, one of the biggest things is if you sue somebody, right, odds are you're only seeing the party you're suing in court, right? If at all. And, to be Denny Hamlin, who's owner and driver, and suing NASCAR, and to have to see them on a weekly basis. I mean, that's got to be some of the most awkward, passings in the garage, at the driver's meet, and even the stuff we as fans and media don't see. I mean, that's got to be an awkward situation, man.
Yeah, and I think he's okay with that, and there's some comfort I think that comes with it also, because I'm sure what I've heard is from lawyer friends, NASCAR's lawyers for sure have told them, no, you can't do anything like random inspections or extra officiating calls you can't do anything that would make it look
even worse,
bad or something, right? Because you're engaged in litigation. So in some ways, even though I'm sure NASCAR hates Denny Hamlin, at this moment. I think at least it should be able to be relatively civil when it comes to competition.
Sure. Fair enough. All right, Jeff, we're going to the Clash this weekend. We got Daytona coming up. What are some early stories or followings that you're going to be having an eye on as we kick off the 2025 season from drivers? Who do you think maybe might have a little explosive start, things like that?
Yeah, so the Clash is going to be interesting because they're saying that, it was interesting. I think I was assuming this whole time that, well, it's going to be kind of just like the LA Coliseum Clash, and it's a quarter-mile track and, around a football field, it kind of be the same thing. Ryan Preece said it's as different as Daytona and Talladega. You could say they're both super speedways, but they're way different. Like the style you have, one's so wide. And, I was watching the documentary that FS1 put together on the Madhouse and all that stuff. And, it's, you're not going to be able to pass around the outside. You're pretty much going to have to pass down low, and to move somebody off that line, pretty much going to have to bump them out of the way. I don't really see people passing cleanly, but you got the grass to your left, and the outside is just not going to work on such a flat track like that, you'd think. So I think it's going to be pretty physical. I would expect, though, that I'm sure like a Priest or those guys who are used to, racing on really tight bull ring type places would be good. But I think it's still going to be the good guys on short tracks. It's going to be a Blaney, a Hamlin, even a Ty Gibbs, right? Like Ty Gibbs at the Clash, I think had a good run going last year at LA. So yeah, I think it's going to be the usual suspects, and, we'll probably try to jump to conclusions, but I don't really know that you'll be able to take too much from this race and apply it to the rest of the year. But it should be interesting. I mean, 17,000 people will be the smallest. If you put 17,000 people at Texas Motor Speedway, they'd say pull the race and, they never come back here again. This is embarrassing. But 17,000 people is going to be a sellout, and people are it's going to be electric atmosphere. So it's going to be totally different. So it'd be interesting to see how that all works.
No, absolutely. And one thing I did mean to ask out, anything with the, nothing crazy on the new tracks for 2025, but from a schedule perspective, anything stick out to you that you didn't like, wish they were doing, not doing?
I'm really excited to go to Mexico City. I think that's going to be fun. I think the atmosphere there will be awesome. The Mexican fans are super passionate. It's going to be, Suarez is going to be like, just a mega star there. He's going to be like Dale Jr. on steroids, right? So that's going to be really cool. I hope that they pack that place or get a lot of fans out for it to see it. I went to the last Busch Series race there back in the day. Now, but they've changed the track since then. Now that F1's there and redone it, so I'm excited to see it. It's obviously a world class venue now with the F1 upgrades that they've had. I don't love Talladega being in round 3 of the playoffs this year, and Homestead being in March. That is a bummer to me. To think that Talladega is going to decide a spot in the Final Four, potentially don't love it. Whether that's a win or knocking somebody out, knocking some favorite out. But this is what NASCAR wants. They want the chaos. Homestead, how could you look at what happened at Homestead last year with Reddick? That move, sensational. Is exactly everything you want to see what's on the line for a playoff, and putting in the driver's hands and make a move and an all-time pass. So that is a track that I would want my championship field decided on, not absolutely Talladega, but those are two of the things that jump out to me, at least.
Fair enough. Jeff, any upcoming stories, projects, anything like that you want to share with anybody?
Well, as I mentioned, kicking off the season with you, I have Logano's 12 questions. I'm recording the first one this weekend at the Clash, and I don't have my 12 questions done yet. So I have about 48 hours or something to figure out what my questions are exactly.
Chat GTP it, man. You'll be done in 5 seconds. You'll be good.
Yeah. I just, Yeah, I got to figure that out pretty soon here. Maybe right after I hang up with you. But no, I mean I don't know what I'm allowed to say yet. We have some fun stuff coming up for Daytona Speed Weeks. The day of Jordan's lemonade stand for losing the bet in the Daytona Fan Zone is going to be Thursday, and it's going to be attached to an event that I don't think has been announced yet. So it's going to be a big crowd for Jordan's lemonade stand, and I'm very excited to see him have to sell lemonade for a couple hours or whatever it is. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be right in the middle of the fan zone. Yeah. So,
and just remind everyone when do you guys drop your shows and all that good stuff?
Yeah, we actually just dropped one. I don't know when this is actually coming out, but Wednesday morning, the 29th before the Clash, just to preview the Clash, talk about our playoff picks, our championship picks. Then we'll just start going into the post-race cadence right after the Clash. Although the Bowman Gray Stadium, I doubt they have podcast rooms, so we'll have to figure out a way to
stall
record there.
In the men's room.
Yeah. Exactly. That might be one of those places that still has the troughs instead of the urinals. That old school, you know what I mean? But the women listening are like, what?
Yeah. I love it. Well, listen, Jeff, man, thank you so much for coming back on to kick off season 9 of the podcast with us. Hopefully we will see at a couple tracks this summer, and it's always good to catch up with you and get your insight. And we look forward to talking with you soon, man.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me as always. It went by fast. So hopefully we can do it again.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon. All right, Lap Traffic Nation. Always great to talk to the legendary Jeff Gluck. Let's do a little Lap Traffic social media. Everybody, make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com. Facebook, The Lap Traffic Podcast, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, all at Lap Traffic PC. And yes, we are using TikTok. Yes, we did a video earlier tonight on there. We're going to continue to try to grow that platform for as long as it's here, right? If you've made it this far into the show, go leave us a review. Go check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com. I still have stickers and koozies to give away for free. If you want one, all you got to do is reach out in some capacity, shoot me a DM, at me, whatever. I'll get one out to you. Feel free to reach out. Okay, what do you say we talk a little bit about this Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium? What a way to kick off the season. Chase Elliott put on an absolute clinic, leading 171 to 200 laps and walking away with his first ever Clash victory. And let's be real, after the kind of year he had in 24, getting back to victory lane is what he needed. It's what all of his fans needed. It's what HMS needed. He was fast all night. Restarts were good. Never really let anyone get close to him, hence leading 171 to 200 laps. This could be a big confidence boost for that 9 car heading into Daytona. Also got to give some shout outs to Ryan Blaney. Started in the back, came through in the provisional, somehow managed his way up to second place. That was our champ from 2023. Guy just doesn't give up. And then there's Denny Hamlin, who led for a couple of laps there before Race Elliott took control. Hamlin looked strong, finished third, and curious to see what we get out of Denny Hamlin. This is going to be a year for 23XI with all eyes on them between the lawsuit with NASCAR, Denny Hamlin being very vocal on his podcast towards the end of last year and into the off season. So all eyes will be on Denny Hamlin. That is for sure. Of course, the storyline of going back to Bowman Gray Stadium, haven't raced there since 1971. And I got to tell you, it didn't disappoint. That bull ring was fun, delivered exactly what we expected, tight racing, beating, banging, and a whole lot of cautions. And I loved it. I know there was some debate about moving the Clash from LA, but I don't think anybody, at least based on what I saw, on social media on Saturday and Sunday had any complaints, and that moving it to Bowman Gray was definitely the right call. The atmosphere was pumping. The drivers had their hands full all night. It was very good, I feel. That said, we did see some wrecks. We had a few drivers who left the track frustrated. Kyle Busch, William Byron had some rough nights, both getting caught up in some stuff. And that's obviously what will happen on a track like that. If you're not out front, you're playing defense. So the question now, should NASCAR keep the Clash at Bowman Gray? If you've been listening to the Lap Traffic podcast for any length of time, you know that I am not a fan of all-star anything, races, baseball, basketball, football, NASCAR, you name it. I want there to be something other than money on the line for the driver and the teams. If there is not playoff or championship implications on the event I'm watching, I have a very, very hard time being interested in it. So it has to be fresh and it has to be new to grab my attention. And we definitely got that. It delivered. I would tune back in to that. And I would also say, NASCAR, could we take some notes and do some implementations somewhere, please? We've got two great short tracks on the schedule, Bristol, Martinsville. We all know the on-track product we've gotten there over the last few years, and we know what we want, which was what we got at Bowman Gray Stadium to start 2025. This race proved that when you let drivers drive, guess what happens? We get some pretty good racing on the track. So, if we could fix the package, that would be great. I digress. Okay. All right. I'll leave it with that because next week we got Dustin Albino from jski.com who is going to come on. We'll talk about the Clash at length. We will also talk about the Royal Rumble. I was going to talk about that tonight, but since Dustin's a great wrestling fan, I consider myself a great wrestling fan. I will say Indy was awesome. This was my third time down to Indy. Went down for 2 Big Ten championship games with the great football team of Michigan. And I love whoever has been at the WWE PLEs, whether it's one person or multiple people just carrying the torch with the sign that they make sure gets on TV that references how many days it's been since Michigan beat OSU. I love you, and please keep doing that forever and ever and ever. Okay, all right, enough of that. That's what we'll get into next week, but we are definitely not done here. No, we've got 2 interviews with 2 up-and-coming ARCA drivers, Chase Pinsonneault and Lawless Alan. So let's get Chase on the line. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making his first appearance on the show. He's going to be driving for Venerini Motorsports at Daytona and Carson Hocevar Racing in the ASA Tour in the 2025 racing season. Welcome to the Lap Traffic Podcast, Chase Pinsonneault. Chase, what's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Awesome, man. Welcome to the show. Happy to have you here and to kick things off for 2025 racing and all that good stuff. Before we get into things, though, I know the off season's kind of long for the ARCA series. I believe the season wraps up mid-October. So it's been a minute since you've been out on the track. Did you get to do anything fun during the holidays, off season, anything like that?
Yeah, up near my area, we got pretty good ice right now, so I got out ice fishing, got to catch up with some of my buddies, but the off season really sucks, man. I just am really excited to get back to the track.
Did you do any do you have a simulator, did you get to do any iRacing, anything like that to keep it fresh?
Yeah, I got my own personal sim. I try to, do a little bit to, be useful, but at the same time, I do a lot of it just for fun too. Try to do some road course stuff and some interesting stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely on the sim as much as I can now.
That's awesome. So for the fans, since this is your first time on the show, what's Chase's story? How did Chase get into racing? What's your backstory?
Well, so it starts way before me. So I'm actually a 3rd generation racer. So my story kind of starts with my grandfather. My grandfather in the 80s drove his first ever stock car after sponsoring a guy by the name of Bob Merrifield. He got behind the wheel on a test day that Bob had because he was a sponsor of the race team, and he caught the racing bug, fell in love with the sport. Push came to shove. He eventually had an ASA team back in the day in the 90s, fielded Tim Sauter and Johnny Sauter in the ASA series, and actually had a Busch team for 1 or 2 years with Tim Sauter. Then came to my dad. My dad loved the sport, but when he put a helmet on, got a little bit timid, so he stayed more to the spotting crew work side of things. Then when he had me, it was only fitting for me to get under the helmet, get behind the wheel of a race car. Started racing in micro sprints. It's a lot like a quarter midget, but from where I'm at in Canada. Got behind the wheel of a street stock when I was 15. Then got right behind the wheel of late model when I was 16. Yeah. And just kind of went from there. Started up in Canada, then, transitioned over to the United States with Carson Host of our racing, and have just been running late models and super late models ever since.
That's awesome. So where in Canada are you?
So I'm in Belle River. It's a small town about 25 minutes away from the Windsor-Detroit border.
Oh, no kidding. So we're neighbors because I'm about 20 minutes from the bridge and tunnel. So that's very cool. So you mentioned a pretty good ice up there. It's been cold, man. It has been frigid these last couple of weeks. So I'm sure the ice has been friendly for you guys.
Yeah, it's been brutal. Like some of the cold days are just terrible. Like, to go do simple errands and stuff, you got to put on 3-4 layers, but getting ice fishing's cool. We haven't had heavy winters in a while, so getting out and doing that's definitely refreshing.
That's cool. And that's awesome backstory, man. To be third generation, that's, it's cool to carry the torch, right? Like it's got to be a good honor for you to be able to carry that for the family name and all of that.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. It's really cool, too, because the whole thing's a family venture. Like, I'm always with my grandpa and my dad. It's just really cool for the whole family, really.
Very cool. So let's talk about Daytona. You're going to be running with one of the most iconic names in ARCA, Venturini. How did that all come together for you guys?
We had been looking into ARCA deals, didn't really have a lot of plans, but we knew Venturini, was obviously one of the best. Their super speedway program is unmatched. Obviously some of the best stuff in the sport. So we got, kind of talking to them, working with that deal through, various different people that we have and people that we know. Just kind of got talking and put a deal together, one race just for Daytona to feel it out, kind of learn a little bit. I just want super speedway experience. Like Daytona is one of the coolest racetracks around, right? It's one of those crown jewels. So wanted to go, learn how cars work in a field, learn how cars work in the draft, building energy and stuff, just so I can learn full size cars, learn NASCAR, and just kind of experience it all in the process.
Did you get to go and do any of Daytona testing, only running one with them, or, because I know ARCA spends a lot of time down in Daytona before, the season actually kicks off?
Yeah, we did. We got a chance to go down and test with them. I met all the people, Ron, my crew chief, Brandon, my spotter, everyone that's kind of vital to the program. Worked with them a little bit, kind of learned the racetrack. Definitely some things were surprising for me, just how bumpy Daytona was. You don't get that on the simulator, and just how air works and stuff. So it was cool. Definitely good to have that experience before I go down for the actual race weekend.
Was it one of those, like, all right, you get up to speed, so you get your first lap out of the way. Your first lap on Daytona, was it an aha moment, or was it a oh shit moment, like, bare knuckling?
For me, it was just kind of breathing it all in, right? You watch this kind of stuff on TV. So, to be at one of those venues that, you watch on TV since you're 4 years old and stuff was just kind of cool. Definitely felt like I achieved something just by being there, right?
Sure.
Most people never get that opportunity. So I'm truly blessed to have that chance. And it was just, it surprised me. Like, the speed, you don't really see it on TV, but when you're actually there in the car, you're hauling, like you're moving.
Sure, absolutely. You're going to be running full-time Carson Hocevar Racing ASA Tour, like you mentioned. Definitely a very cool Midwest tour. I've been to a couple ASA races, down in Toledo, Berlin, and Birch Run. Where are you going to be running? I guess, where are you most excited to go to in the ASA Tour?
I mean, there's a lot of really cool racetracks. Like they added Newport. I think Newport's going to be a blast. Like I looked at that racetrack, just really cool characteristics. Like the corners aren't perfectly round, and I think it's definitely going to be a driver's racetrack. Winchester, obviously, everybody loves Winchester. It's a really cool racetrack. Super fast, really hard to qualify there. Lots of laps too, so it's definitely a battle of attrition. I really like that racetrack. Super excited to get back there. The whole schedule, honestly, is really cool. But those two, I feel like, are definitely at the top of my list. And then Toledo, we definitely run good at Toledo. Last one I'd say is Owasso. That facility is unbelievable. Owasso Speedway. Every time you go there, something changes. Like the pits, everything is like paved. It's a beautiful facility. One of the coolest racetracks I've ever ran, for sure.
That's very cool. Carson, obviously a Michigan guy. So, you being so close to Michigan is, was it a match made in heaven, or how'd you get paired up with Carson?
So we actually wanted to do a one-off ASA deal. We didn't really have any plans or rhyme or reason to do it. Just my grandpa was in ASA for a long period of time, and I wanted to kind of follow that tradition and be part of the deal. And then we kind of got in with the Van Dorn Racing Development Group, kind of tested with them a little bit. And instead of just doing that one-off deal, we put together this 2-year program to run pros all last year and supers coming up all this coming year. So it was a really cool deal. We didn't really expect it to turn into what it did, but it's been working out really good for us. Really great people. Zach Dunson and Mike Cruz, really amazing group to work with. And Carson's a cool person to lean on for sure.
Absolutely. Being so I imagine you've probably been to MIS, being as close to Michigan as you are and all that. I guess what are some fun things you like to do when you cross the border?
Oh man. Well, we definitely know a lot of people across the border just because of, racing connections and stuff. So we like to hang out with people. Obviously we like to race cars across the border for sure. I come over there for Top Golf, super big golfer.
Yeah.
So I like to come over and hang out at that place.
At MGM?
One. What's that?
There's a Top Golf at MGM right across in downtown Detroit. Have you been to that one? Yeah.
I think so. Probably it's the closest one to us. The other one's in Toronto, and that's further than Detroit. So
yeah.
I like to do a little bit of that. Been to MIS a couple times.
Okay.
Otherwise, like MIS and Homestead are the only two NASCAR experiences I've had.
Okay.
Like Daytona, my first time testing was there. That was like that was the first time I was ever at that facility.
That's very cool. Very cool. I love that. Talk about sponsors. Being international, if you will, do you have a lot of sponsors that you've had with you throughout your career that transfer and they see a benefit in sponsoring a car that's running in the States? Or, do you focus more on stateside sponsorship just because that's where you're running for the most part?
I think mostly stateside, but a lot of the sponsors that we had have definitely carried over, at least last year. FCF Custom Fab has been on our car since I started racing. We know them pretty good. Fred at FCF is a super cool guy. They make really awesome products. And they've been on the car since I started racing street stocks. So that's definitely been a carryover. But for the most part, United States sponsors like US 131 was our major sponsor that had come on this year. Just through connections with my grandfather and stuff, they made the most sense to go in the car. But definitely stateside or international companies trying to kind of promote Canadian sponsors is definitely harder from across the border.
Sure.
But there's a lot to be had on social media as a Canadian racer and stuff as well. So it can go both ways, but most of it is from the United States.
Sure. You've run a lot of different types of cars, right? And in short periods of time, what's been the biggest challenge, or I guess what's the most challenging car that you've driven over the years, with be it the short, the late models, the ARCA, first time at Daytona? It's that's a lot, right? Not just focusing on 4 full seasons of a truck or Xfinity. That all of these cars are so different in terms of weights, how they drive, all of that. What's the most challenging one for you to get behind?
Oh, that's actually a really complex question because they're all so different.
Right?
I feel like when I was racing street stocks, I struggled just because they don't have a ton of, just natural raw grip. They don't have a lot of grip, and you just kind of have to drive them really hard. You always have to put them on the edge out of control, kind of sideways to get them to go fast. So it was kind of the hardest car to drive, I feel like, was that street stock. But you have to be a lot more refined to drive late models. Pro late models are all about roll speed, so you have to get through the center of the corner really well, and then because you get through the center of the corner so well, you have to be careful because the throttle is very sensitive, where in the supers, it's generally purely about throttle control. It's just making sure you get a good center exit run, making sure the car's hooked up and you don't burn tires off of it too. So I think I enjoy the supers the most because I feel like there's a lot of mind games to them. I think you have to really manage a race a lot with the longer races, saving tires, and just the quality of drivers are so good. I feel like the ARCA test I had at Daytona was super mentally taxing. You just can't lose focus, especially when you're in a pack. You have to maintain focus. You have to maintain proper communication or stuff can go super sideways really quick. So they're all just very unique. I don't think there's any one more difficult than the other, but I feel like if I had to pick one, I would probably say super late models. And that's why I love them so much. I love the competition. I love the challenge. You know, running 15th out of 20 in an ASA field is hard. So I feel like I love that. Super late models are probably the hardest thing I've driven.
Cool. Love it, man. I love it. Well, listen, man, why don't you tell everyone where they can follow you and keep up with you on social media?
All of our social media is streamlined through everything. So it's C Pinsonneault, my last name, 14 across every single platform right now.
I love it. And we'll be sure to tag you on everything when we get the show out here. Listen, man, thank you so much for coming on, sharing the story. I'd love to catch up with you midway through the season or something like that, do a follow-up with you. Best of luck at Daytona. Hope you have a blast. Bring it home in one piece. And, best of luck in the ASA too, man. Great to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. All right, Lap Traffic Nation. There you have Chase Pinsonneault. All right, we're just going to keep it going. We're going to do back-to-back interviews for you guys because this thing's getting long already. Last year we struggled for hour shows. Here we're going to clear an hour. And then, back in the day we used to do 2 and 3 hour shows. That is definitely a thing of the past, I have a feel. But yeah, let's get Lawless Alan on the line. First time on the Lap Traffic Podcast. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making his first appearance on the show with Venturini Motorsports in the ARCA Series and Tricon in the trucks. Welcome to the show, Lawless Alan. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming on. We're still in the off season, kinda, if you will. Did you get to do anything fun during the off season? Anything cool during the holidays to unwind?
Yeah, went to Los Angeles, where I'm from, with my buddies. Took a road trip up the coast, and then had the holidays. Spent time with family, but between you and me, I'm itching to get back already. It's checking off days until Daytona for me right now.
Right. It's like the, it's the itch, right? And you've got the itch. You're ready to go, strap in and, turn some laps, right?
Yeah, I can't wait I got a little taste of it at the Daytona test, and I want to go back. I just want to do it already. I'm tired of all this sitting around.
I believe it. Walk us through what the ARCA Daytona test is like.
For the first run, it's pretty exciting stuff. Like, I mean, you haven't been in the car in a couple months. You're just antsy to get back out on track. You have to get your credentials. You're doing all the preseason stuff, and then the teams are preparing the cars. You're sitting in it. It's all usual stuff, and then you get there, do your first run. You're like, all right, this track's awesome. And then for the rest of the day, you do single car runs. You do one lap at a time, and it gets pretty boring pretty fast. I mean, as boring as a race car can be, I guess. But I mean, it's still a privilege to get to do. But in the of the list of most exciting tracks to do one lap at a time at, it gets pretty repetitive.
Sure. I could see that. Walk us through, man. What's your racing career? How'd you get into racing? What got you to where you're at now?
I started in legend cars at Irwindale Speedway in California, the now torn down or Irwindale Speedway. I moved up the kind of local track ladder there. Ended up running late models and winning a championship at Irwindale in late models, and then moved up to took a year and went Trans Am TA2 racing, and so did some road course stuff, and then went back to the ARCA West, ran a couple races, then COVID hit, and that kind of threw a wrench in everything. Went back to Irwindale for running running legend cars sometimes, late models, running sports cars sometimes, just doing a whole host of stuff. And then started in the trucks, ran, I believe it was 5 or 6 races, maybe it was 7, in trucks in 2021. No practice for most of them, just going out and shipping it. And then from there, I went and ran 2 years at Nice in the trucks. And last year was with Round Brothers Racing in Truck Series. And now I'm with Toyota and Venturini and ARCA, and then Tricon for a couple races in the Truck Series.
That's awesome. Is there a potential to lock in a few more truck races?
Not for this year. The one is kind of filled up.
Okay.
But I mean, the goal is to do really good in ARCA and the trucks and lock in a full-time truck ride again next year.
Awesome. Very cool. Do you, when you're running legends and late models and ARCA, is it a big difference for you, or, what's the adjustment like when you do strap into a truck?
It's the biggest adjustment is less the physical driving of it, because at the end of the day, it's a car with 4 wheels and an engine.
Sure.
It's more of the mental side of it. There's the intensity level that the Truck Series brings versus anything else that I've experienced so far, except for the 2 Xfinity races I ran. I feel like their intensity level is pretty similar. Where it's another level. It's not the short track local stuff hanging out with your friends and racing. It is a serious business with people that are serious competitors and that are very, very good at what they do and putting everything they have into what they do. So it's a different intensity level. Just the aura of the track is different. The
Sure.
aura of the whole weekend is different. And I've started now, because of the Truck Series and hearing the Air Titans go every half hour before practice for 3 years. Now, if I hear any ambient hum walking around outside, if I'm going at Publix or something, I hear something that vaguely resembles it, I can feel my heart rate start increasing, because it feels like it's almost time to go.
That's awesome.
Even though I might be doing something completely unrelated to racing.
I love it. No, that's for sure. You mentioned the atmosphere of a garage, and even someone that doesn't drive the cars but has been in the garages across all 3 series, some late models, and some other tracks, you definitely can sense, when it's time to have fun and when it's go time. And it's a different level each time you walk through one of the different garages, for sure. There's no doubt about that. Let's see here. You mentioned Daytona and you're working with Venturini. That's one of the most iconic names in the ARCA garage. How did that partnership come together, and what's it been like working with them?
The partnership kind of came together last minute. I've talked a lot to my friends and family about things like God's timing, where it seemed like all my doors were closing for this next year, that I had a bunch of opportunities, but for one reason or another, the doors were closing, just couldn't make something work at that time. And then they're not going to sit around and wait for me. So just doors closing, it seeming like I didn't really have any options really left other than maybe one. And then all of a sudden we get a message from Trent Rodriguez and Toyota Guzzi Racing where they're like, they offered me the seat in ARCA and with some couple truck races, and it seemed like I've been trying to get with Toyota and into the Toyota program for years now, and for one reason or another I haven't been able to, the Toyota rides haven't worked out or what have you, but it's I feel like I'm the most able to take advantage of it now. I've matured enough to fully realize the opportunity that's presented in front of me. And I might be speaking a little preemptively, but it seems like a blessing at the moment. We'll see exactly what I'm able to do with it as it goes on. But very thankful for how it happened, when it happened, and I'm excited to get this year going with Auto Park and Venturini and Toyota. It's one of those things where it's if God closes a door, he opens a window kind of thing.
Absolutely. You mentioned your sponsor, Auto Park. Have they been with you before, or is this a new sponsor for you?
Been with me for the entirety of my racing career. I can count on one hand how many race cars I've driven that they haven't been a part of in some way.
That's awesome.
So it's been really cool, and also a blessing to be able to get such a long-term partner. And what my dad has always instilled in me is that these partnerships are not they're not charities. They're not just giving you money just to see it burn. You will always be able to get sponsorship or maintain the partners that you have if you let them know, if they give you $10, here's how you get 11. So as long as it seems like it's a good return on the investment, which
Sure.
It appears that racing is so far, and I fully intend on making it even better, getting more TV time, and thanking them as much as I can so that this partnership can continue, hopefully into the far, far future.
Excellent. I love that, man. That's very cool. You got any tracks that you're really excited to get to this year? You know, what are the couple circle tracks for you?
I'm excited to get to all of them. It's been really instilled in me that I'm not supposed to have any favorite tracks, that they're all supposed to be my favorite, but mostly that I'm not allowed to have any dislikes.
Fair enough.
But tracks I'm really looking forward to are the two speedways, so Daytona and Talladega, because there's something about speedway racing that I live for it. I love it.
Sure.
Some people hate it. I live for it. It's great. But I'm very excited to run Darlington.
Okay.
That's a track that I always look forward to. I've said it before where I found that it's the only track that you can be terrible and still have fun. So
Sweet.
I have no desire to be terrible.
I was going to say, we don't want to be terrible, but yes, I get what you're saying for sure.
But I've been pretty bad there before and still had fun. So I can imagine that with Tricon, it's going to be even more fun because we'll be really good.
Nice. I love that. That's awesome. Where can everybody follow you on social media to keep up with you and what you got going on this year?
So on Instagram and Twitter are the two places that I am on. My handle on both of them, I think, is Lawless Alan. Twitter might be Lawless Alan 25 or Lawless_Alan 25. But those are the two places that I'm on. I'm way more active on Instagram than Twitter, but I still go on there. I still read what people have to say on my posts because I've learned that you can't seek out what others think of you.
Fair, yeah,
in this business. I do my best to avoid reading anything that's not directly related to me or something I post. So those are where you can find me. There's a website, lawlessalanracing.com, that you can find information and t-shirts and swag and whatnot.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, listen, man, thanks for coming on the show. We'll try to reach out and keep do a touch up with you, midway through the season, see how things are going. And thanks for coming on. Best of luck this season, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Talk to you soon. All right, Lap Traffic Nation. Let's close this thing out with some Lap Traffic Fantasy. Now, we obviously don't do fantasy for the Clash, but things are going to kick off at Daytona with all 3 series. If you've been playing for a minute, you know the rules. You get to pick one driver for each race that we're running that weekend. Playoff drivers count. You can only use those once per segment. I won't bore you all with those rules, but it's a lot of fun. We've got over 100 players, I believe, already registered for this season. If you want to play, it is free.